A single billionaire finds homeless twin girls freezing in a cardboard box. They say nobody wanted us. He decides to take them home, but days later, a black limousine stops at his door. Snow was falling slowly, as if there were all the time in the world. Billy Mercer shoved his hands deeper into his coat pockets and quickened his pace. The cold bit his face, and he could already imagine the kettle on the stove, steam rising through the empty kitchen. 42 years old, retired history professor due to health issues, single, no children, no hurry to get home, but desperate to escape the cold. Billy always chose the quietest streets, not out of fear but preference. He liked the silence, the echo of footsteps on the wet pavement. He was a man content with his own company. He turned onto Elm Street, the last corner before home. That's when he saw it, a cardboard box. It was leaning against the low wall of an abandoned house, partly hidden behind a lamppost, the kind of box people use when moving. Large and brown as with its flaps folded inward, Billy walked past it, 3 more steps, then he stopped. Something wasn't right. The box had moved. He was certain, or almost certain. He went back, slowly. The snow continued to fall, sticking to the soggy cardboard. As he drew closer, he heard it, a faint sound, as if someone was trying not to make any noise. "Hello," he called, feeling slightly ridiculous. Silence. "Is someone there?" Still silence, but Billy knew someone was there. It was a strange feeling, but he knew. He crouched down. Slowly, he lifted one of the flaps of the box. 2 pairs of eyes stared back at him, large, frightened, shining in the darkness. 2 little girls, very small, and they looked alike. Very much alike. They were huddled together, trembling. One of them had her cheek pressed against her sister's shoulder. Their clothes were far too thin for this cold, no shoes on their feet. They both had the same brown hair, the same large eyes, the same small, scared faces. Twins. Billy stayed there, crouched in the snow. The world seemed to fall into complete silence. "Hi," he said in the gentlest voice he could manage. One of the girls lifted her chin. She looked to be about 5 years old. Her eyes seemed too old for her small face. "We didn't do anything wrong," she said. Her voice was firm, but Billy noticed she was trying hard not to cry. "I know," he replied. "Are you both okay?" The question slipped out, and Billy felt foolish again. It was obvious they weren't okay. They were in a cardboard box in the middle of a snowstorm. "We're cold," answered the other girl, lifting her head for the first time. They were identical. Exactly identical. Same age, same face, same mixture of weariness and fear in their expressions. "Do you live here?" Billy asked. The 2 sisters exchanged glances. The girl who had spoken first pulled her twin close. "We live here," she said. "Our mother left us when we were very young. Nobody wanted us." The words came out simple, direct, like stating that the sky is blue. Billy felt something tighten in his chest. He stared at them, trying to process what was happening. 2 little girls, alone, in the cold. "What are your names?" "I'm Maisie," said the one protecting her sister, pointing to herself. "This is Tessa." Tessa gave a shy wave. "I'm Billy." He took a deep breath. "Do you want to get out of there?" Maisie hesitated. She looked at Billy, then at Tessa, then back at Billy. "Will you call someone?" The question caught Billy off guard. There was fear in her voice, like calling someone would be the worst thing that could happen. "No," he said, "I won't call anyone." He didn't know why he said that. He didn't know what he was doing. He only knew he couldn't leave 2 children in a cardboard box in the snow. "My house is just down the street," he pointed to the side street. "It has heating and food." Maisie looked in the direction he pointed. Billy saw her calculating something in her head, weighing options. "How long for?" she asked. "What do you mean? How long can we stay?" Billy was speechless. He hadn't thought about that. He hadn't thought of anything. He only knew he couldn't leave them there. "As long as you need," he said. It wasn't a smart answer. It was just the only possible answer. Maisie took Tessa's hand. "Okay," she said, "but if you change your mind, we'll come back." Billy helped the 2 girls out of the box. They moved slowly, carefully, as if they didn't want to take up too much space. Tessa held her twin's hand tightly. The walk to his home took 2 minutes. The girls said nothing. Billy said nothing either. Only the sound of footsteps in the snow and everyone's breath forming little clouds in the cold air. Billy's house was small, simple. 2 windows in the front, a faded blue door, a garden he never cared for properly. When he opened the door, the warmth escaped like a hug. The girls stopped at the threshold. "You can come in," Billy said. They stepped inside slowly, taking everything in. A small living room with an old sofa, a coffee table cluttered with books, a television Billy rarely turned on. "Sit down," he said, pointing to the sofa. They sat together at the edge, as if ready to bolt at any moment. Billy went to the kitchen and turned on the kettle. He returned to the living room. The girls were in exactly the same position. "Have you eaten today?" Maisie shook her head. "Yesterday?" She thought for a moment. "I don't remember." Billy felt his chest tighten again. He went back to the kitchen and returned with a package of cookies. He offered it to them. Maisie took a cookie. Tessa took another. They ate slowly, as if unsure if it was allowed. "You can have more," Billy said. They ate 3 more cookies each. Then Maisie tucked 2 into her sweater pocket. The kettle whistled. Billy made hot chocolate in 2 small mugs he never used. When he returned, the girls were whispering to each other. "Hot chocolate," he said, offering the mugs. They took them with both hands, as if the mugs were treasures. They sipped slowly, feeling the warmth spread. "Is it good?" Billy asked. "Very good," said Tessa, speaking for the first time since they entered the house. Billy sat in the armchair across from the sofa. He observed the 2 of them. Maisie kept watching the door. Tessa focused on her hot chocolate. "How long have you been on your own?" he asked. Maisie and Tessa exchanged glances. Maisie sighed. "A long time," she said. "Our mother left us when we were very little." Billy felt his stomach clench. "She left you?" "She went away and never came back," Maisie explained in a small voice. "We don't even remember her well." Tessa nodded, serious. "We've always lived on our own," she said, "always here on the street." "And after that?" "After that we wandered," answered Maisie, looking for her. But she was nowhere to be found. Her words came out simple, matter-of-fact, as if it were a story they had told themselves many times while trying to understand. "And you managed on your own all that time?" Maisie nodded. "Grandma Rose helped sometimes." "Grandma Rose?" "She wasn't our real grandma," Maisie explained, "but she was kind to us. She gave food. Let us sleep in her backyard when it was very cold." Tessa smiled for the first time. "She made soup," she said. "Hot soup." "What happened to her?" Billy asked softly. "She got really sick," Maisie answered. "One day she didn't wake up anymore. Then people came and took her away and they locked the house." Billy felt something tighten in his throat. "And you were alone again?" "We already knew how to take care of ourselves," said Maisie, as if it were natural. "Grandma Rose taught us where to ask for food, where to sleep when it rained, where to hide when there were bad people." "Our mother taught us some things too," Tessa added in a whisper. Before she left, Billy said no more. He didn't know if he wanted to hear the answers. Silence stretched through the room. Outside, the snow kept falling. Billy looked out the window and saw that a few inches had already piled on the ground. "Do you want to take a bath?" he asked. The girls exchanged glances. "Is there hot water?" Maisie asked. "There is. And soap." "And soap." Maisie sighed. "Grandma Rose let us bathe with the hose in her backyard, but the water was freezing." Billy led them to the bathroom. He laid out 2 clean towels, soap, shampoo. He showed them how to adjust the water temperature. "Call if you need anything," he said. He closed the door and waited in the living room. He heard water running, quiet giggles, soft whispers. It was a strange sound in a house that usually lived in silence. When they came out of the bath, they wore the same filthy clothes as before. Billy realized he hadn't thought about that. "We'll buy you new clothes tomorrow," he said. Maisie looked at him, surprised. "Does that mean we'll still be here tomorrow?" "If you want." She looked at Tessa. The 2 of them smiled in unison, that identical smile. Billy improvised beds on the living room sofa. He brought pillows, blankets, an extra comforter because the house got cold at night. The girls settled close together, as they must be accustomed to. "Do you want me to turn off the light?" he asked. "No," said Maisie, too quickly. "All right, I'll leave it on." "In the street, we'd hide when someone yelled," said Tessa in a whisper. "In the dark, we couldn't see who was coming." Her words hung in the air. Billy felt his chest tighten. "You don't need to hide here," he said. Billy went to the bedroom. He lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the whispers coming from the living room. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't stop thinking about the two girls on the other side of the wall. Two twins who had been abandoned by their own mother, who had lived on the streets, alone, caring for each other, surviving with the occasional help of an elderly woman who died and left them completely helpless. What had he done? He had brought two unknown children into his home. He knew nothing about them beyond the little they had told. He didn't know if someone was looking for them, if he was doing the right thing. He only knew he couldn't have left them in that box. Around 2 in the morning, he got up to get a drink of water. He tiptoed through the living room. The girls were asleep, holding each other, breathing slowly. Maisie had her protective arm around Tessa. Billy stood there for a few minutes, just watching. They were so small, and they had taken care of each other for so long. He returned to the bedroom. This time he managed to sleep. He woke up to noises in the kitchen. He got up startled. What time was it? The clock read 6:30 in the morning. He went to the kitchen and found the two girls rummaging through the cabinets. "Good morning," he said. They turned around, startled. Maisie was holding a piece of bread. "Sorry," she said. "We were hungry." "You don't need to apologize. Eat whatever you want." Billy made coffee for himself and milk for them. He toasted bread, spread butter, served jam. The girls ate with urgency, as if the food might disappear. That's when Billy noticed. Tessa was hiding pieces of bread under the pillow they had brought from the sofa. "You don't need to save it," he said softly. "There's more." She froze, looking at him, then at Maisie. "There's always more?" she asked. "Always." Even so, she continued hiding pieces of bread. Maisie did the same. Billy pretended not to see. After breakfast, the girls stayed in the living room watching cartoons on TV. Billy went to tidy the bedroom, but he listened. They talked quietly, whispering things he couldn't understand. When he returned to the living room, they were sitting on the floor, far from the door. Billy sat in the armchair. "You took very good care of each other," he said. Maisie nodded. "We always stick together," she said. "Always." "Since our mother left us," added Tessa. Billy spent the rest of the morning observing the two of them, the way Maisie checked the door every few minutes, how Tessa flinched when he shut a drawer too hard, how they ate slowly but hid food in their pockets, how they moved always together, as if they were a single person. Two twins who had learned to survive, who had been abandoned and had kept each other alive through sheer determination and love. Billy didn't understand everything that had happened to them. He probably never would completely, but he understood enough. They had survived. Now they needed to rest. And he was going to let them rest for as long as necessary. 3 days passed since Billy found the twins in the box. 3 days of small, careful discoveries. Maisie woke up first every morning, checked that Tessa was okay, then looked out the window as if calculating something. Tessa slept clutched to her sister, but sometimes spoke in her sleep. Words Billy couldn't understand. The two still hid food in their pockets, still jumped at noises, still slept with the light on. But something was changing. On the morning of the 4th day, Billy woke to a different sound. It wasn't the sound of the girls rummaging in the kitchen. It was something softer, laughter, quiet, careful, but laughter nonetheless. He left the bedroom and found the two sitting on the living room floor. They had spread out the colored pencils Billy bought the day before. Paper was all around them. "Good morning," he said. They looked up. Maisie had a green pencil in hand. Tessa held a blue one. "We were drawing," said Maisie. "Can I see?" The two exchanged glances. Maisie nodded slowly. Billy approached. On Maisie's paper was a large tree with branches that looked like open arms. Beneath the tree, 2 small figures sleeping. "It's beautiful," Billy said. "That's where we used to sleep sometimes," Maisie explained. When it rained a lot, Billy looked at Tessa's drawing. It was a bridge, and under the bridge, two small figures embracing. And this? That was our favorite place, said Tessa. The bridge kept out the rain, and it had an echo. Echo? When we sang, the sound came back, Maisie explained. It was nice. Billy sat on the floor with them. He looked at the drawings. They were simple, made with childlike strokes, but they told stories. You can draw whatever you want, he said. I'll keep all of them. Tessa looked at him, curious. Why? Because they're important. They're just drawings. They're your memories, said Billy, and memories are important. The girls returned to drawing. Billy went to make coffee and prepare breakfast. When he came back, they had made 3 more drawings. One showed 2 small figures next to a trash can. Another showed 2 girls sitting on a sidewalk, eating something. The third was strange. One large figure handing something to 2 smaller figures. Who is that person? Billy asked, pointing to the larger figure. That's Grandma Rose, said Maisie. She used to give us bread. Every day? No, only when she had it. And when she wasn't very sick. Tessa picked up another sheet of paper. I'm going to draw the day she died, she said. Maisie stopped drawing. You don't have to, she said softly. I want to. Tessa began to draw. Billy saw a small house appear, a window and 2 figures outside looking in. We waited for her to wake up, Tessa said without lifting her eyes from the paper. But she didn't wake. And then people in white came. They took her away in a big thing. An ambulance, said Maisie. Yes, and then other people came. They closed the house, placed a notice on the door. Billy felt his throat tighten. And you were alone again. Again, said Maisie, but we already knew what to do. The girls drew for another hour. Billy stayed there, watching. Sometimes they explained what they were drawing. Sometimes they just drew in silence. That's when Tessa made a different drawing. It was a large box, and inside the box 2 figures hugging. Outside, another larger figure. What is this? Billy asked. Tessa looked at Maisie. That was our cardboard roof, she said softly. Roof. The box protected us from the snow, Maisie explained. We found it a few days before you came. It was our new home, said Tessa. Our cardboard home. Billy looked at the drawing again. The figure outside was him on the night he found them. You drew me. You were kind, said Tessa. You didn't yell. You didn't tell us to go away. And you brought us here, added Maisie. Billy carefully placed the drawings in a folder he had gone out to buy. He put each one in with care, as if they were treasures. Why are you keeping them? Asked Maisie. Because they're important, repeated Billy. One day you'll want to remember. Remember what? How strong you were. How you took care of each other. The girls were silent for a moment. We always took care of each other, said Maisie. Always, confirmed Tessa. In the days that followed, drawing became part of the routine. Every morning after breakfast, the girls took colored pencils and paper. And every morning, Billy discovered a little more about their life on the streets. There were drawings of places they slept, under awnings, inside concrete pipes, in stairwells of abandoned buildings, drawings of how they got food, begging at restaurant doors, searching through trash cans, waiting for leftovers at marketplaces. This was the worst place, said Maisie, pointing to a drawing of 2 small figures in a dark alley. Why? There were rats and strange noises at night. We only stayed one night, said Tessa. We ran away at dawn. Another drawing showed 2 girls running. Behind them, bigger, menacing figures. What happened here? Bad men, said Maisie, simply. Grandma Rose taught us to run when we saw men like that. How did you know they were bad? We just knew, said Tessa. They looked at us in a weird way. Billy didn't ask for more details. He didn't want to know. But he put the drawing with the others. There were drawings of winter, 2 small figures shivering, surrounded by white flakes. Drawings of summer, the same figures seeking shade under cars. In summer it was easier, explained Maisie. You didn't have to worry about the cold. But there were other bad things, said Tessa. Like what? Drunk people. They yelled a lot, and sometimes they tried to grab us. Each drawing was a window into a world Billy never imagined. A world where two small children had learned to survive on their own. After a week of drawing, something changed. The girls started talking more, not just about the drawings, but about other things, about what they liked to eat, about TV shows they'd seen through store windows, about dreams they had at night. "I dream of having a house," said Tessa one day as she drew. "What is the house like?" "It has a big kitchen and soft beds, and there's never a shortage of food." "It sounds like a nice house." "It's kind of like this one," she said, looking around. Billy felt something tighten in his chest. Maisie began to sing softly, almost whispering while drawing. Songs Billy didn't recognize, melodies she must have invented. "Where did you learn that song?" he asked. "I didn't learn it," said Maisie. "I made it up." "You invent songs?" "Yes. On the street, we sang to keep from being scared." "Did it work?" "Sometimes." Tessa began to dance. It wasn't a real dance. It was more like she was floating around the room, turning slowly, moving her arms as if they were wings. "I used to dance on the street too," she said, "when there was music coming from the shops." Billy bought a small doll for Tessa. It wasn't anything special, just a rag doll with yellow hair and a blue dress. Tessa held the doll as if it were made of crystal. "Is it mine?" she asked. "It is. Forever. Forever." Tessa hugged the doll and began to dance with it, twirling around the room, whispering secrets into the doll's ear. "What's her name?" Billy asked. "Luna," said Tessa without hesitation, "because she's the color of the moon." The next morning, Billy attempted to make pancakes. He had seen the recipe in an old cookbook he found in the kitchen. It shouldn't be too difficult. He was wrong. The first pancake stuck to the pan. The second one burned. The third came out all lopsided. The girls watched from the kitchen table, giggling. "You're not very good at cooking," said Maisie. "No, I'm not," admitted Billy. "Grandma Rose used to make pancakes," said Tessa, "but they were tiny and sweet. Can you teach me?" The two jumped up from their chairs and went to help. Maisie showed how to stir the batter. Tessa told him when to flip the pancake. Billy followed their instructions. The fourth pancake turned out almost perfect. "We did it," Tessa exclaimed. "We did it," repeated Billy, smiling. They ate the pancakes with honey and laughed about the ones that had gone wrong. It was the first time Billy had seen the two of them laugh out loud without worry. "Uncle Billy," Maisie said all of a sudden. Billy stopped eating. "How did you call me?" "Uncle Billy," she repeated, turning red. "Can we?" "Of course you can." "Because you take care of us," explained Tessa. "Like an uncle." "And we like you," added Maisie. Billy had to swallow hard to keep from crying. "I like you too." That afternoon, the girls made more drawings, but these were different. Instead of harsh places and scary situations, they drew Billy's house, the living room with the sofa where they slept, the kitchen where they made pancakes, the bathroom where they took hot baths. "Why are you drawing here?" Billy asked. "Because it's nice here," said Maisie. "We're not scared here," said Tessa. She made a special drawing. 3 figures in the kitchen, 2 small and 1 larger, all smiling. "That's us making pancakes," she explained. Billy slid that drawing to the front of the folder. It was the first drawing where they looked happy. That night, while the girls slept, Billy looked through all the drawings. There were more than 20 now. A visual chronology of 2 children's lives who had gone through things no child should endure. But there was something else too. In the more recent drawings, he saw hope, brighter colors, figures less terrified. Perhaps the drawings were showing more than the past. Perhaps they were showing that a different future was possible. Billy carefully closed the folder. Tomorrow there would be more drawings, more stories, more small steps toward healing, and he would be there to keep each one. It was 3:30 in the afternoon on a Thursday when Billy heard the soft rumble of a different engine on the street. It wasn't the sound of passing cars. It was something more refined, more silent. He was in the kitchen preparing a snack for the girls when the sound stopped right in front of the house. Maisie and Tessa were in the living room drawing, as they did every afternoon. Over the last few days, the drawings had changed. Fewer streets, fewer frightening places. More houses, more smiling people, more cheerful colors. Billy peeked out the kitchen window. He couldn't see the street from there. "Uncle Billy?" Maisie called from the living room. "There's a big car out front." "How big?" "Very big and shiny." Billy dried his hands on a towel and went to the living room window. What he saw made him freeze in mid-step. A black limousine was parked in front of the house. Dark tinted windows, chrome shining in the afternoon sun, engine humming softly like a contented cat. "What a beautiful car," said Tessa, pressing her nose to the glass. "It's a limousine," Billy said. "What is that?" "A special car for important people." "Important people like who?" Maisie asked, curious. "Like rich people or famous people." The girls watched. Billy did too. Who could be in a limousine in front of his house? He didn't know anyone who had that kind of car. He was a retired history professor. He lived a simple life, without luxuries. "Why did it come here?" Tessa asked. "I don't know." But Billy felt a growing unease in his chest. Something was wrong. Something was about to change. The back door of the limousine opened slowly. A woman stepped out. She was young, maybe around 25. Blonde hair tied back in a sleek ponytail, wearing expensive clothes, a dark blue dress that looked like it came from a fashion magazine, high heels, a small leather purse, sunglasses hiding half her face. But there was something in the way she moved, a barely disguised urgency, an anxiousness beneath all that elegance. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her purse. She looked at the house for a long moment, took a deep breath as if preparing herself for something difficult, removed her sunglasses. She began to walk toward the front door with hesitant steps. "She's coming here," said Maisie. "Looks like it." Billy didn't know why, but he felt his stomach clench. There was something familiar about this woman, something he couldn't place. Maybe it was the way she looked at the house, as if she knew the place. The doorbell rang. The sound echoed through the small house like an alarm. The girls stepped away from the window instantly. Tessa hid behind the sofa. Maisie stood up, tense, muscles stiff as if ready to run. "Don't open it," she whispered. "Why not? People like that, they're dangerous." Billy looked at her, surprised. Maisie was only 5 years old, but her protective instincts were too sharp. She had learned to distrust, to protect herself. Dangerous, how? People with expensive cars, but they always want something bad. The doorbell rang again, more insistently. "I'll just see what she wants," said Billy. "You stay here." "Uncle Billy," Tessa called, emerging from behind the sofa. "What if she wants to take us?" The question took Billy by surprise. "Why would she want to take you?" "I don't know." "But sometimes people take children." Billy felt a chill run down his spine. What had these girls seen? What had they lived through to be so afraid? "No one will take you," he said firmly. "I promise." He opened the door. The woman was standing there just a few feet away. When she saw Billy, she smiled, but it was a nervous, forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hello," she said. Her voice trembled a little. "You're Billy Mercer." "I am. Can I help you?" She looked over Billy's shoulder, trying to see inside the house. Her eyes searched for something, or someone. I'm looking for 2 little girls, twins, 5 years old." Billy's stomach dropped. The world seemed to slow down. "What did you say?" "2 little girls?" "Maisie and Tessa." She took a deep breath, gathering courage. "Those girls, they're my daughters." The world seemed to stop completely. Billy stared at her, trying to process what he had just heard. The words echoed in his mind like a distant echo. "Your daughters?" "Yes, I'm Nina Carver." "And I need to see them." Billy felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. Everything clicked into place at once. The blonde hair, the eyes, the age. She looked like the girls. How had he not realized? "How did you know they were here?" I've been searching for them for months. I hired private investigators. They told me someone saw you with 2 girls at the downtown store, twins, their age. I came here hoping..." Nina tried to step forward, but Billy did not move from the doorway. "Please," she said, desperation in her voice. "I just want to see them, just for a few minutes." A noise came from inside the house, quick footsteps running across the living room. Billy turned and saw Maisie running toward the bedroom, Tessa behind her, stumbling over her own feet. They had heard. They heard everything. Nina heard too. She craned her neck, trying to see, her eyes filling with tears. "Maisie! Tessa!" she called, voice breaking. "It's me. It's Mommy." Total silence. A heavy silence, laden with years of abandonment. Billy turned to Nina. "They don't want to see you." I know they must be scared, but I'm their mother. I have the right." "You have the right." Billy's voice came out harsher than he intended. "Where were you when they were sleeping in a cardboard box in the snow?" Nina turned pale, as if slapped. "I can explain. Where were you when they were searching for food in trash? Please, let me explain. Where were you when they were alone, scared, taking care of each other because they had no one else in the whole world?" Nina began to cry. Tears ran down her face, smearing expensive makeup, destroying her elegant composure. "I know I did wrong things. I know I ruined everything, but they're my daughters, and I love them." Billy looked at her. He saw real despair in her face. He saw genuine pain, guilt, remorse. But he also thought of the two girls hiding inside the house, trembling with fear. "They don't remember you," he said. "I know. They were too young when you abandoned them." The words came out like a heavy accusation, loaded with years of consequences. Nina closed her eyes as if the words were knives. "When I made the biggest mistake of my life." Billy remained silent. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to do. Part of him felt pity for the woman in front of him. Another part wanted to protect the girls at any cost. "Please," said Nina, voice cracking, "just let me see them. Just a few minutes. I can explain what happened." Billy heard whispers from the bedroom. The girls were talking to each other, probably terrified. "Wait here," he said. He closed the door and went to the bedroom. He found Maisie and Tessa hugging on the bed, hiding under the blanket. "Is that her?" Maisie asked in a muffled voice. "Who?" "Our mother, the one who left us." Billy sat down on the edge of the bed. "She says it's her. Do you want to see her?" "No," said Tessa, too quickly, squeezing her sister tighter. "She left us," said Maisie. "Why would we want to see her?" Billy took a deep breath. How could he explain a situation to two 5-year-olds that he himself didn't understand? "Sometimes people do wrong things, and then they regret it. If she were our mother, she would have stayed with us," said Maisie. Her words were direct, simple, filled with an unrelenting child's logic, and they cut Billy like a blade. "You don't have to see her if you don't want to," he said, "but she's out there, and she looks very sad." "So what?" Tessa asked. "We were sad for a long time too." Billy didn't know what to answer. "What if she wants to take us away?" Maisie asked. "She won't take you anywhere." "I promise." "How do you know?" "Because I won't let her." The girls looked at each other from under the blanket. Billy saw fear in their eyes, the same fear they had the first night when they thought he might send them away. "I'll be right here the whole time," he said, "right next to you. If you don't want to talk to her, I'll send her away." Maisie took a deep breath. "How long will she stay?" "As long as you want. If you want her to go now, she will." "Promise?" "I promise." Maisie looked at Tessa. Tessa nodded slowly, reluctantly. "Okay," said Maisie, "but we stay here by the door. She can't come in. And if she says something bad, we run back inside," added Tessa. Billy returned to the door. Nina was exactly where he had left her, still crying but trying to compose herself, dabbing her face with a tissue. "They'll see you," he said, "but from outside, and I'll stay with them." Nina nodded quickly, desperately. "All right, whatever they need, however they want it." Billy stepped away from the door. He called the girls. They came slowly, clinging to each other as they always did when they were afraid. They stood right behind Billy, using him as a shield. Nina saw them and began to cry even harder, a silent cry, as if she didn't want to scare them. "My God," she whispered, "you've grown so much." The girls did not respond. They stood there, motionless, staring at her as if she were a dangerous stranger. "Maisie? Tessa?" "We don't remember you," said Maisie, her voice small but firm. Nina closed her eyes, as if the words were physical blows. "I know. You were too little." "Too little for what?" asked Tessa. "To understand what was happening." "Why did you leave us?" Maisie asked. The simple, indirect question hung in the air like an accusation. Nina tried to speak, but she couldn't. She just cried. I was going through a very difficult time, and I thought you'd be better off without me." "We weren't better," said Maisie. "We were alone." "And hungry," added Tessa. "And cold. And scared." Each word was like a dagger to Nina. She bent down, trying to get on their level, but they stepped back. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything you went through because of me." "Feeling sorry doesn't change anything," said Maisie. Billy put his hand on her shoulder. He felt the tension in her little body, the anger held inside. Can I hug you?" Nina asked, her voice desperate. "No," said Tessa, hiding further behind Billy. Nina began to cry again. She stayed there, kneeling on the ground, just a few feet from the daughters who didn't recognize her, who didn't want her touch. "I understand," she said. "I understand that you don't trust me. I understand that you hate me." "We don't hate," said Maisie. "We just don't know who you are." Her words were worse than hate. It was indifference. It was as if Nina were a complete stranger asking to hug her daughters. "Are you happy here?" asked Nina, looking at Billy. "We are," said Tessa. "Uncle Billy takes care of us," said Maisie. "Uncle Billy? He's our uncle now." Nina looked at Billy. There was pain in her eyes, but also something akin to gratitude mixed with jealousy. "Thank you," she said softly. "Thank you for taking care of them." Billy nodded. "They're special." "I know," said Nina. "I always knew." "Are you leaving now?" Maisie asked. Nina hesitated. Billy saw the conflict in her face. The desire to stay, to try again, fighting against the reality of the situation. "If you want me to go, we do want." The words came out direct, without hesitation, without cruelty, but also without warmth. Nina shook her head. "All right, I'll go. But can I come back? Another day?" The girls exchanged glances. "I don't know," said Maisie. "We'll think about it," said Tessa. Nina nodded. She took a few steps back, then stopped. "I love you," she said. "I always loved you, and I know that doesn't change what happened, but I needed you to know." The girls remained silent. They stood there, clinging to Billy, watching Nina return to the limousine with slow steps. She got into the car but didn't leave immediately. She sat there, probably crying, trying to process what had just happened. Billy led the girls back inside. They sat on the sofa, quiet, processing. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Weird," said Maisie. "Why?" She seemed genuinely sad. "And we didn't feel anything," said Tessa. "But it's strange not to feel anything for our mother." Billy sat between them. "You don't remember her. It's normal not to feel anything for someone you don't know. But she remembers us." "She does." "Do you think she really misses us?" asked Maisie. "I think so." "Then why did she leave us?" Billy didn't know how to answer. He couldn't understand how a mother could abandon two little girls. He couldn't imagine circumstances that justified it. "Sometimes people make bad choices," he said. "Choices they regret forever." They were silent for a few minutes. Outside, the limousine remained parked. "Is she going to stay there forever?" asked Tessa. Billy looked out the window. He saw Nina step out of the car again. She walked to the sidewalk in front of the house and stood there, staring at the window as if trying to see through the curtains. "I'll talk to her," said Billy. He left the house. Nina was there, her face swollen from crying so much, makeup completely smeared. She said, "You don't want to see me," she said. "No, I deserve that. I know I deserve it. But standing out here in front of the house won't change anything." Nina nodded but didn't move. I don't know what to do. I searched for them for so long, thought about it every day, and now that I've found them, now you wait. Wait. They'll need time, a lot of time, and you'll have to respect that." Nina looked at the house. "And what if they never want to see me again?" Then you'll have to accept it. Nina began to cry again. How do I accept losing my daughters again? You already lost them, said Billy, his words harsher than he intended. The day you abandoned them. His words were harsh but true. Nina shook her head. You're right. She took a deep breath. I'll wait. As long as it takes. And don't show up here all the time. They need stability. I know. Nina looked at Billy. Can I leave my phone number in case they want to call me? Billy took the card she offered. I don't promise anything. I know. Nina walked back to the limousine. Before getting in, she turned. Thank you for taking care of them better than I did. I care because I choose to care, said Billy. Every day. It's a choice you make every day. Nina got into the car. The limousine pulled away slowly, disappearing around the corner as if it had never been there. Billy returned to the house. The girls were at the window, watching like two little ghosts. Is she gone? Asked Maisie. She is. Forever. I don't know. She left her phone number. The girls were silent. We don't want to call her, said Tessa. That's okay. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. But will she come back? Only if you let her. Maisie nodded. Tessa did too. Uncle Billy? Said Maisie. Yes? Can we stay here? Even if she is our real mother, Billy hugged them both. You can stay here as long as you want. Forever, forever. That night, the girls drew again, but it was a different drawing. 3 figures in the living room, 2 small, 1 larger, all inside a house with thick walls, and outside, another figure, alone, looking through the window but unable to enter. That's her, asked Billy. Yes, said Tessa. She stays outside. Why? Because her place isn't inside here, said Maisie. She lost her place here the moment she left, and if she wants to come in? She has to knock on the door, said Tessa, and wait for us to let her. Billy placed the drawing in the folder with the others. Another story told through colored pencils. The story of a door that hadn't yet opened. The story of a mother who would have to prove she deserved to be called mother again. And maybe, just maybe, one day the girls would decide to open that door. But not today. Today the door remained closed, and outside, Nina cried in the backseat of a limousine, facing a door that hadn't yet opened for her. 3 days passed since Nina appeared at the door. 3 days of tense silence, with the girls avoiding any mention of her. 3 days of Billy staring at her card with her phone number, wondering if he should call. It was on Sunday morning that he made the decision. The girls were drawing in the living room, as always, but Billy noticed something had changed in their drawings. Previously, they drew happy houses, smiling people, scenes of security. Now, there were solitary figures in the corners of the pages, shadows that hadn't been there before. I'm going out for a bit, he said. Will you be okay here? Where are you going? Maisie asked, immediately alert. Just to take care of something. I'll be back in an hour. Is it about her? Tessa asked. Billy hesitated. He didn't want to lie. It is. The girls exchanged glances. Are you going to bring her here? Maisie asked. No. I'm just going to talk to her. Why? Because sometimes we need to understand things before deciding what to do. Maisie frowned. We already decided. We don't want to see her. I know. And that won't change. I just want to understand the whole story better. Billy left the house with her card in hand. He called Nina from a payphone 2 blocks away. She answered on the first ring. Hello? Nina? It's Billy. Silence on the other end. Then her voice, tense. They're okay. Did something happen? They're okay. I wanted to talk to you. About the girls? About everything. About what happened. About why you left them. More silence. Where? There's a cafe on Oak Street. The Blue Moon. You know it? I'll find it. When? Now. Nina arrived 15 minutes later. She looked different, without the elegance from the first time. Jeans, a simple blouse, hair loose. She seemed younger, more vulnerable. They sat at a table in the back of the cafe, away from other people. Nina ordered coffee. Billy did the same. They sat in silence for a few minutes. How are they? Nina asked. Confused, scared, angry. Nina lowered her head. I expected that. Why did you abandon them? The question came out direct, without beating around the bush. Nina closed her eyes. It's a long story. I have time. Nina took a deep breath. She began speaking in a low voice, as if sharing a terrible secret. I got pregnant at 19. I was young, foolish, in love with the wrong guy. When I told my parents, they kicked me out of the house. Why? They're very religious. They said I brought shame to the family, that they didn't want to see me anymore. Billy said nothing. He just listened. The girl's father, he seemed nice at first, promised to take care of me, that we'd be okay. But when the girls were born... Nina paused. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. What happened? He changed, started drinking, yelling, hitting. Billy felt his stomach tighten. On you. On me. Never on the girls. At least not that. But they saw it. They saw him hitting me and couldn't do anything. And you didn't leave. I tried, several times. But he always found me. And each time I came back, it got worse. Nina described how they lived in a small house that felt more like a prison, how she tried to shield the girls from what was happening, but knew they understood something was wrong. They were very small, but very smart. Maisie always stood in front of Tessa when he started screaming, as if shielding her. They always took care of each other. Always. Since they were babies. Nina spoke of their escapes, how she would take the girls in the middle of the night and run, how they slept in abandoned cars, under bridges, anywhere that seemed safe. The worst part was seeing them hungry. I could go without eating, but seeing my daughters hungry, and you always went back. He always found us. He had friends who helped him, and I was so young. I didn't know what to do, had nowhere to go. Billy imagined two small children living like that, running from place to place, always frightened, always hungry. The last time was the worst, continued Nina. He hit me in front of them, a lot. Tessa started crying. Maisie tried to step in front of me, but he shoved her too. Nina stopped speaking. She was crying. That's when I knew I had to do something final. What did you do? I waited until he left. I grabbed the girls and ran again, but this time I knew he would find me. He always did. And then I had the most terrible idea of my life. Nina looked at Billy with tears in her eyes. I thought, if I disappear completely, he won't have a way to find me. And if I disappear, the girls will be safe. Billy felt a chill run down his spine. You thought about leaving them somewhere. Somewhere someone good would find them and care for them better than I was able to. Nina, I know how it sounds. I know it looks like I didn't love them. But it was the opposite. I loved them so much I couldn't bear to see them suffering because of me. Nina told how she spent 2 days looking for the perfect place, a busy place where they would be found quickly. A safe place. I chose a square in downtown. It was very busy, with many families. It was morning on a sunny Saturday. And you left them there. I arranged them well. 2 clean blankets. I put them sitting on the bench, side by side. Maisie held Tessa's hand. Nina couldn't stop crying now. I told them Mommy would come back soon. That they just had to wait a little bit. Maisie asked if it would take long. I said no. But you didn't come back. I hid behind a tree. I watched. I wanted to make sure someone good would find them. Billy pictured the scene. 2 small children, sitting alone on a bench waiting for their mother to return. How long did it take? 2 hours. The worst 2 hours of my life. They sat there, waiting. Tessa started to cry after a while. Maisie comforted her, saying Mommy would come back. And who found them? An elderly couple. They stopped, talked to the girls. I saw they were good people. I saw them calling someone, probably the police. And you left. I ran and cried. But I knew they would be okay. I knew someone would care for them better than I could. Billy remained silent for a long moment. Do you know what happened after? I tried to find out, but it was too dangerous. He was still looking for me. I moved to another town, changed my name, hid. And him? I never saw him again. I hope he gave up. And the girls? You tried to find them. Nina nodded. As soon as I felt safe, I started looking, but they had disappeared from the system. No one knew where they were. What do you mean? It seems they escaped from wherever they were, or they were transferred, or, I don't know, they simply vanished. Billy thought of the girls living on the streets, of Grandma Rose, of all the hardships they endured, and you never gave up. Never. I hired detectives. I spent everything I had. I searched every shelter, every adoption center. I looked for years. And now you're married. Nina smiled for the first time. Marcus, he is everything their father wasn't. Kind, patient, loving. Does he know about the girls? He knows everything. He helped me search. It was his idea to hire the private investigators, and he wants to meet them. He's eager, but he knows it will take time. He knows they'll need to trust first. Billy finished his coffee. He thought about everything Nina had told him. Why are you telling me this? Because you take care of them now. Because you need to understand that I didn't leave them out of lack of love. I left out of desperation, because I thought it was the only way to save them. Do you think that makes a difference? I don't know, maybe not, but I needed someone to know the truth. Billy looked at her. He saw sincerity on her face. He saw real pain, genuine remorse. What do you want now? To make up for lost time, if they'll let me. In their way, in their time. They might never let you. I know. And if that's the case, I'll accept it. But I have to try. Billy thought of the girls, of the fear they had of everything, of the way they protected each other. They'll need a lot of time. I have time. And they'll need space. As much space as they need. Billy made a decision. How about discreet visits? What do you mean? You could show up occasionally. Not at the house, but nearby. Let them get used to you being around without pressure. Nina looked at him, hopeful. Do you think that could work? I don't know. But maybe it's a start. What do you have in mind? There's a bench in the park in front of the house. Sometimes I take the girls there to play. You could sit there. Just sit. Don't try to talk. Just be present. And if they don't want to see me, we'll stop. Simple as that. Nina nodded quickly. When? Tomorrow, 3 in the afternoon. If they're willing to go, and you'll be there. I'll be there. Billy returned home with his mind racing. He found the girls exactly where he'd left them, drawing in the living room. How did it go? Maisie asked. It was enlightening. What does that mean? It means I understand the story better. And now, Billy sat down with them. Do you want to know what she told me? The girls looked at each other. No, said Tessa. Maybe, said Maisie. Billy shared a simplified version. He didn't mention the violence, didn't go into horrifying detail. He only said that Nina was very young, that she was scared, that she thought leaving them safe was the best thing to do. She thought someone good would find you and care for you better than she could. But no one found us, said Maisie. You ran away. Because it was bad where we were, Billy nodded, and now she wants a second chance. And what if we don't want to give it? Then she'll have to accept it. The girls were silent, processing. Tomorrow I'll take you to the park, said Billy. She'll be there, on the bench. You don't have to talk to her. Not even look at her if you don't want to. Why? So she can get used to being near you, and so you can get used to being near her, without pressure. What if we don't like it? Then we go back home and don't do it anymore. Maisie looked at Tessa. Okay, she said, but we don't promise anything. The next day at 3, Billy took the girls to the park. Nina was already there, sitting on the bench, reading a book. She wore jeans and a simple t-shirt, no makeup, trying to look casual. The girls saw her immediately. She's there, said Tessa. I know. What do we do? Whatever you want. The girls played on the playground, but Billy noticed they always kept Nina in their field of vision. She didn't try to approach, didn't wave, didn't call attention to herself. She just sat there reading. After an hour, they left. Nina was still on the bench. She didn't try to talk to us, said Maisie. She didn't. Is that good or bad? That's what you thought it was. They repeated this for a week. Every day at 3, the the same routine. Nina on the bench, the girls playing, no interaction, until on Friday, something different happened. Maisie was drawing on the grass when she finished a sketch. It was different from the others. Two girls in the center, a woman in the background, and a large bright sun overhead. "That's beautiful," Billy said. Maisie looked at the drawing, then at Nina, who sat on the bench as always. "Can I leave this here?" she asked. "Leave where?" "On the bench, next to her." Billy was surprised. "Why?" "I don't know. Can I?" "Of course." Maisie stood up, walked to the bench. Nina saw her coming and froze, unsure what to do. Maisie placed the drawing on the bench beside Nina without a word. Then she ran back. Nina looked at the drawing. Billy saw the moment she recognized it. The two girls, her figure in the background, the sun above them. He saw her start to cry. She picked up the drawing gently, as if it were made of crystal. "She's including me for the first time," Nina said when Billy passed by the bench on the way out. "That's a big step. For her, or for me?" "For both." Nina held the drawing to her chest. "Does this mean she's thinking of forgiving me?" "It means she's thinking. And sometimes, thinking is the beginning of everything." That night, Maisie made another drawing. A bridge connecting two sides of a river. On one side, two little girls. On the other, a woman. And the bridge was still under construction. "Is this about her?" Billy asked. "It's about us," said Maisie. "Sometimes we need a bridge to reach people." "And who's building the bridge?" "Everyone," said Tessa. "Us, her, and you too." Billy placed the drawing in the folder with the others. Another story told through colored pencils. The story of a crossing that was just beginning. It was the start of that crossing. Slow, careful, with no guarantees. But it was a start. 2 weeks passed since the visits to the bench began. 2 weeks of Nina sitting in the same spot, reading the same red-covered book, respecting the distance the girls needed. Billy noticed subtle changes each day. The girls no longer hid when arriving at the park. Sometimes they glanced in Nina's direction and timidly waved. Sometimes they even ran a little closer to the bench during playtime. "She always brings the same purse," Maisie commented one afternoon. "And she always sits in the same spot," added Tessa. "I think she likes routine, just like us." Billy smiled. The girls were observing Nina as much as she observed them. It was on a Thursday that Nina arrived with a small bag beside her usual purse. The girls noticed immediately. "I wonder what's in there?" Tessa asked, stopping mid-swing. "I don't know," said Maisie, stepping closer to the fence separating the playground from the bench. "But she hasn't opened it once." "Maybe it's food," suggested Tessa. "Or maybe it's something for us," said Maisie quietly. Billy realized they were clearly curious. They played closer to the bench that day, stealing glances at the mysterious bag. As they were heading home, Maisie stopped abruptly. "Uncle Billy, can we ask her what's in the bag?" "Of course. Do you want me to ask?" "Yes." Billy approached the bench where Nina sat. She looked up from a book she clearly wasn't reading. "My nieces want to know what's in that bag," he said. Nina smiled. The first genuine, spontaneous smile Billy had seen since she appeared. "It's something that belonged to them when they were little," she said, voice thick with emotion. "Can I see?" Nina opened the bag carefully, as if handling something extremely fragile. She took out a stuffed bear that had clearly seen better days. The blue fur was faded in many spots. One ear was slightly torn, and small stains told stories of much love and use. "Here's the bear," she said. "She was with them the day I left them in the square." Billy took the bear carefully. It was soft despite the wear, and it smelled of something familiar and comforting. A subtle perfume mixed with the scent only well-loved objects have. Will they remember him? Tessa used to sleep with him every night. Maisie always said he was their little brother and that they needed to take care of him. Billy returned to where the girls were waiting, visibly anxious. "He's a bear," he said. "A bear that was theirs when they were very small." Tessa was the first to approach, eyes fixed on the worn toy. "Can I smell him?" she asked, extending a hesitant hand. Billy offered the bear. Tessa pressed her nose into the faded blue fur and took a deep breath. Her eyes widened. and she remained very still for a moment. "I remember this smell," she said quietly, hugging the bear to her chest. "It's the smell of when we were very little, when someone took care of us." Maisie approached and sniffed as well, frowning as if trying to access very old memories. "It smells like Mom," she said thoughtfully. "Not our mother now, the mother from before when we were babies." "Do you remember him?" Billy asked. Tessa nodded slowly. "I remember sleeping with him being warm. And I remember feeding him," said Maisie, "with a little toy spoon." Tessa held the bear in her arms and gently rocked it. "Can he stay with us tonight?" "Of course he can," said Billy. That night, Tessa slept hugging the bear. Billy found her in the morning nestled between Maisie and the toy, the three of them forming a cozy nest on the sofa. "What's his name?" Billy asked during breakfast. "Blue," said Tessa without hesitation. "I remembered during the night. He was always called Blue." A few days later, during a park visit, Maisie surprised everyone by stopping mid-play and looking directly at Nina. "Uncle Billy, can I ask her something?" "Of course. But I don't want you to ask. I want to ask myself." Billy was surprised. It was the first time one of the girls wanted direct contact with Nina. "Are you sure?" "I am." Maisie took a deep breath and walked to a safe distance from Nina, close enough to speak without shouting, far enough to feel safe. "Ma'am," she said, her voice small but firm. Nina dropped the book immediately, as if struck by lightning. "Hi, Maisie," she said gently. "Do you know what I liked?" Maisie asked, getting straight to the point. "When we were little, before we were alone." Nina smiled, and Billy saw she was trying to keep her voice steady. "You liked butterflies," she said without hesitation. "Whenever you saw one, you'd point and say butter, because you couldn't pronounce it fully yet." Maisie smiled a little and took a step closer. "And what else? You liked when I sang that moon song. You'd always ask for moon, moon before bed, and you'd wave your little hands as if playing the stars." "I remember the moon song," said Maisie, her eyes shining. "Sometimes I still sing it to Tessa when she can't sleep." Nina had to blink several times to hold back tears. "You also hated wearing shoes. You'd always take them off and toss them. I'd find your little shoes in the strangest places. Once I found one inside a pot." Maisie laughed, a small but genuine laugh. "I still do that. Uncle Billy is always finding my shoes in weird places. And you always took care of Tessa. Even when you were small, you were the protective older sister. If she cried, you worried until she stopped. If she had a nightmare, you'd sing to her." Maisie looked at Tessa, who had come over and was listening intently. "We always took care of each other." "Always," confirmed Nina. "You were a perfect team since you were babies." Encouraged by the conversation, Tessa asked her own question. "Do you remember us dancing with our hands?" Nina smiled and, without hesitation, began moving her hands in smooth, flowing motions, as if dancing with the breeze. "You were too small to dance standing up, so we'd dance sitting on the bed, just with our hands. You copied every move I made." "Can you do it again?" asked Tessa. Nina kept moving her hands in the air. Tessa copied instantly, her eyes shining with joy as she rediscovered the memory. Then Maisie joined in. For those magical minutes, the three of them performed the hand dance right there in the park, connected by a memory that had survived years of separation. "I remember that," said Tessa, smiling broadly. "Dad used to make us laugh so much." "You had the best laughs in the world," said Nina, and Billy saw she was holding back tears of joy. "We still laugh a lot," said Maisie. "Uncle Billy says we laugh like little birds." "He's right. You always laughed like happy little birds." The next day, Maisie surprised Billy with an announcement. "Uncle Billy, we want to do something different. We want her to come to our house." "Are you sure?" "We are, but not for a big dinner, just for a snack, in the backyard." "Why?" "Because we want to ask more questions, and there are too many people in the park. It's more hours here. And are you ready for that?" The girls exchanged glances, making that silent communication only twins have. "We think we are," said Tessa. "She seems nice, and she remembers good things from when we were little." Billy arranged everything for the following Saturday. He spread a checkered blanket on the backyard grass and brought ingredients to make sandwiches. Bread, cold cuts, cheese, tomatoes. Nina arrived at the agreed time, carrying a paper bag. "I brought fresh strawberries," she said, a bit nervous, "and some cookies I baked. I wasn't sure if you liked strawberries." "We love strawberries," said Tessa, peeking into the bag. "And homemade cookies we've never had," added Maisie. It was awkward at first. Nina sat on the grass with them, trying to help assemble sandwiches without making any sudden movements, clearly nervous. "Did you always know how to cook?" asked Maisie, watching Nina slice tomatoes precisely. "Not very well when you were little," Nina admitted. "I was so young and didn't know much. I burnt almost everything I tried to make." "And we still ate it," asked Maisie. "You were so sweet, very patient with me. Once I burned the porridge so badly that black smoke came out of the pot. You looked at me, then at the smoking pot, and Tessa said, 'Thank you, Mommy, anyway.'" "I said thank you?" asked Tessa, laughing. "You did. And thank you for everything. Thank you, Mommy, when I gave you food. Thank you, Mommy, when I changed diapers. It was the cutest thing in the world." Maisie laughed out loud. "You still mispronounce some words," she said, nudging her sister. "I don't mispronounce," protested Tessa. "Yes, you do. Yesterday you said pumpkin cookie instead of strawberry cookie." "What else did we do that was funny?" Tessa asked, changing the subject. Nina visibly relaxed, realizing the girls were genuinely interested. "You did so many funny things." Maisie tried to bathe Blue in the kitchen sink. She'd fill the sink with water and soap, and poor Blue would get soaked. "I did that." "You did. And then you'd worry because he was too wet and try to dry him with a hairdryer." "And me?" asked Tessa. "You would eat toothpaste because you thought it tasted good. I'd turn my back for 2 seconds and you'd be in the bathroom squirting toothpaste into your mouth." The girls laughed so hard they almost spilled their juice. "And you invented a secret language only you two understood," continued Nina. "You'd spend hours talking in that language, making hand gestures, and I never knew what you were saying." "We still have our secret language," said Maisie. "Can you show me?" The girls exchanged conspiratorial glances and began making strange sounds, moving their hands and making elaborate faces. Nina laughed so much she had to brace herself. "You have remained amazing children," she said, wiping her eyes. "Even more amazing than I remembered." As the afternoon went on, Billy saw the girls completely relax. Nina didn't force anything. She answered when they asked. She laughed at their jokes. She listened intently to every word they said as if it were the most important thing in the world. "How did we name Blue again?" asked Tessa suddenly. "Blue," said Nina without hesitation, "because of the color. But you two fought 3 whole days about the name. Maisie wanted to call him Rex. Tessa wanted to call him Bobo. I suggested Blue and you finally agreed. We fought a lot. Like all sisters, but you always made up afterward. If one cried, the other would comfort. If one was sad, the other would invent a game to cheer her up. We still do that," said Tessa. "Some things never change," said Nina fondly. "The good things never change. And we still sleep together when we're scared," added Maisie. "You always did that. Even when you each had your own crib, you always ended up sleeping together." In the middle of the afternoon, Tessa's hair was full of cookie crumbs and bits of strawberry. "You're all messy," said Maisie, laughing at her sister. "Can I comb your hair?" asked Nina softly. "You have food stuck in it." Tessa looked at Maisie, who nodded encouragingly. "All right," but gently. Nina took a small comb from her bag. She began to comb Tessa's hair with extremely gentle motions, as if handling something precious and fragile. "Your hair's grown so much," she said, marveling. "When you were little, it was barely enough for a ponytail." "Grandma Rose used to cut our hair," said Tessa, "but she was so old the scissors didn't work well. It always ended up crooked." "Did Grandma Rose take good care of you?" "She did what she could. She made us hot soup and let us sleep in her backyard when it was very cold. And she always said we were special." Nina continued combing in silence, and Billy saw tears forming in her eyes, but she didn't let any fall. "All done," she said when she finished brushing. "It looks beautiful. You have the prettiest hair I've ever seen." Tessa ran her hand through her hair, feeling how smooth and scented it was. "Thank you. You comb better than Uncle Billy." "I heard that," said Billy from the porch, feigning indignation. They all laughed. When Nina was getting ready to leave, Maisie surprised her. "Can you come back next Saturday?" Nina smiled but held back from letting her emotions fully show. "If you want me to." "We do," said Tessa, "and next time we can show you more of our drawings. I would love to see them." That night, the girls made a drawing different from all the others. It was a house with the door wide open, and 3 figures in the living room, 2 small, 1 larger, all with huge smiles. "Is this about today?" asked Billy. "It's about how we felt," said Maisie. "We felt complete." "Complete how?" "Like a part of us that was lost came back," explained Tessa. Billy put the drawing with the others, thinking about the girls' words. Observing from afar all afternoon, he had witnessed something extraordinary. It wasn't just that the girls were meeting Nina, it was that they were rediscovering a part of themselves they didn't know still existed. It was like watching 2 people reconnect with pieces of their own identity. For the first time since he found them in that cardboard box, Billy saw that the girls not only had a place to live, they were beginning to have a place to return emotionally as well. Nina wasn't trying to replace anything or anyone. She was offering something different and complementary, the connection to who they were before everything got hard, the possibility of having a mother who loved them deeply, even if she made the terrible mistake of leaving. And the girls, with the emotional wisdom only children possess, were learning that they could love both things at once, the security and stability Billy provided, and the maternal affection Nina was patiently rebuilding. One gentle gesture at a time, it was the beginning of something new, not a replacement of what already existed, but an expansion of a family that was learning that love doesn't diminish when it's divided, it multiplies. The next Saturday, when Nina returned, Tessa ran to her as soon as she saw her approach. "Did you bring more stories?" she asked, hopping from one foot to the other. "I brought a bunch," Nina said, opening her arms, and for the first time, Tessa let herself be fully embraced by the mother who had come to fetch her. Saturday afternoons in the backyard had become the most anticipated time of the week. It had been 2 months since Nina started having lunch with them, and Billy saw how the girls had changed completely. They laughed louder. They asked questions without fear. They ran to hug Nina when she arrived and felt sad when she left. That particular Saturday, Nina arrived earlier than usual, carrying a picnic basket larger than normal, and she seemed more nervous. There was something different in the way she greeted the girls, a little extra tenderness, a hidden tension Billy could sense. "I brought sandwiches today," she said, trying to sound casual, "and some special fruits. I thought we could talk more and cook less." The girls ran to help spread the blanket on the grass. Billy noticed that Nina avoided his gaze, and there was an anticipation in the air that didn't exist on other Saturdays. "Uncle Billy, sit with us today," said Tessa, grabbing his hand. "We want both of you here. You don't want to talk just with Nina. We want everyone together," said Maisie, determined. They settled onto the checkered blanket. Nina handed out sandwiches more carefully than usual, arranged the fruit in pretty plates. But Billy noticed she barely touched her own food. "Girls," she finally said, her voice soft but filled with importance. "I want to talk to you about something very important." Maisie and Tessa stopped eating immediately. Nina's tone had something definitive that made them both pay full attention. "Is it something good or bad?" asked Tessa, always direct. "It's something big," said Nina, choosing her words carefully. "Something that can change everything for the better." Billy felt his stomach clench. He knew exactly what was coming, and part of him wasn't ready. "Do you remember when I told you about Marcus, my husband?" "I remember," said Maisie. "You said he's nice and that he helped search for us. He's very nice, even nicer than you can imagine. And he really wants to meet you." The girls exchanged glances with that silent twin communication. "Why does he want to meet us?" asked Tessa. "Because you're the daughters of the woman he loves. Because he hears about you every day and already feels as if he's known you for years." Nina took a deep breath as if preparing for a deep dive. "I wanted to ask if you'd like to come live with me and Marcus." The silence that followed was heavy and charged. Billy saw the girls' expressions change instantly, from curiosity to surprise, from surprise to something that looked like fear. "Live with you?" asked Maisie, her voice higher than normal. Yes, in our home. As a real family. Tessa instinctively moved closer to Billy, seeking the safety he always represented. Does he know about us? She asked, her voice small and worried. Nina kneeled to get on their level, looking into each of their eyes. He knows everything about you. He knows you love drawing and that you create the most amazing stories. He knows Tessa sleeps with Blue and that Maisie takes care of her sister. He knows you are the most brave and special children in the world. But what if he doesn't like us when he meets us for real? Asked Maisie, suspicion creeping into her voice. And what if he doesn't want us once he sees how we are? Added Tessa, leaning into Billy. Nina smiled. The first genuine, confident smile full of certainty Billy had seen in her since they met. He's a very good man. Much better than you can imagine. He knows I came looking for you. He's waiting eagerly to meet you. He wants you with us. How are you so sure? Asked Maisie, always questioning. Because he helped me search for you all those years. Because when I cried thinking about you, he comforted me and said that one day we would find you. Because when I told him I found you, he cried with joy with me. The girls remained silent, clearly processing the crucial information. But, began Tessa. But what, sweetheart? Maisie looked at Billy, her eyes filling with tears. Uncle Billy, will you disappear? The question hit Billy like a direct punch to the heart. He looked at the two girls who had completely changed his life. Never, he said, his voice firm and full of conviction. I will never disappear. But if we go live with her, I will always be your Uncle Billy, forever. No matter where you live, no matter what happens. Nina looked at Billy with deep gratitude. Billy will always be part of your family, she said. Always. He's not just the man who cared for you. He's the uncle you chose, and heart's choices are forever. Promise? Asked Tessa, her voice trembling. I promise, said both Billy and Nina at the same time. And there was so much sincerity in their voices that even the girls smiled. The girls exchanged glances, communicating in that secret language made of small looks and gestures only they understood. Can we meet him first? Asked Maisie at last. Of course, said Nina immediately. In whichever way you want? How about if you come spend a weekend with us? Suggested Nina carefully. Just to see the house, meet Marcus, see how you feel. And what if we don't like it? Asked Tessa. Then you come back here and we figure something else out. No rush, no pressure. And can Uncle Billy come along? How about if Billy takes you there and stays for a bit the first day? Then, if you feel comfortable, he can come back. And if you want him to stay, he can. The girls visibly relaxed at the suggestion. When? Asked Tessa. When you feel ready. Next weekend, suggested Maisie after exchanging more looks with her sister. Nina restrained herself from showing all the excitement that was bursting inside her. Next weekend would be perfect, she said, her voice controlled but her eyes shining. During the week that followed, the girls asked more questions than Billy had ever heard in his life. How is their house? Does Marcus really like children? Do they have a garden like ours? And what if we don't know how to talk to him? And what if he thinks we're strange because we used to sleep on the street? And what if he doesn't understand our secret language? Billy answered what he could and guided them to save other questions for Marcus himself next weekend. On Friday night, they packed a small suitcase with the care one takes when preparing for something very important. Billy helped them choose clothes, toys, some special drawings to show Marcus. Bring Blue, said Maisie to Tessa. Of course. And you'll bring Luna? No, I'll leave her here. To watch the house while we're gone. On Saturday morning, Billy drove to the address Nina had given. It was a nice residential neighborhood with big homes and manicured gardens, ancient trees casting welcoming shade over the street. Wow, said Tessa when they stopped in front of the house. It was a two-story house, painted light blue, with a flower-filled garden in front and large trees providing cozy shade. A porch with rocking chairs and big windows. It's much bigger than our house, commented Maisie. It is, nodded Billy. But remember, size isn't what makes a house a home. Then what does? The people who live inside it. The love they share. Nina opened the door even before they could ring the bell. She was visibly anxious, trying to hide her nervousness behind a wide smile. "You've arrived," she said, her voice brimming with joy. Come in, come in. Welcome to our home." The girls entered slowly, looking around with curious eyes. The living room was large and bright, with comfortable sofas arranged around a coffee table full of books. There were bookshelves along the walls, potted plants, and gentle light streaming through the windows. "Where's Marcus?" asked Tessa, scanning the room. "He's in the kitchen, finishing lunch. Would you like to meet him?" The girls nodded, but stayed very close to Billy. Marcus appeared at the kitchen door, drying his hands on a dish towel. He was a tall man, about 30, light brown hair, and a gentle smile. There was a noticeable nervousness in his eyes, but also genuine happiness. "Hi," he said, in the softest voice he could manage. "You must be Maisie and Tessa." "Hi," they replied, shy but curious. "I'm Marcus. It's so good to finally meet you both in person." He crouched down to their level, without invading their personal space. "Nina tells me about you every day. I know you love drawing amazing stories and that you're very brave and special." "Do you like drawing?" asked Maisie, always testing. "I love it. Can I see some of your drawings? Did you bring any?" The girls looked at Billy, who nodded encouragingly. They opened their suitcase and took out some drawings they had selected especially. Marcus looked at each one with genuine interest and attention. "This one is fantastic," he said, holding a drawing of Billy's house. "You even drew the garden flowers. And look at this detail of the door." "Uncle Billy doesn't take very good care of the flowers," said Tessa, relaxing a bit. "But we love the house anyway." Marcus laughed, a warm, natural laugh. "I love gardening. Would you like to see our garden after lunch?" Over lunch, Billy carefully observed the interactions. Marcus was genuinely interested in the girls. He asked thoughtful questions, listened carefully, laughed at their jokes, never forced intimacy. "Do you know how to play any board games?" he asked. "Not many," Maisie admitted. "I can teach you a few if you'd like. Or we can do other things. We have puzzles, books, card games." "What kind of books?" asked Tessa, her eyes shining with interest. "Would you like to see our library?" He led them to a room Billy could only describe as a paradise. Books from floor to ceiling, a rolling ladder to reach the highest shelves, cushions scattered on the floor for comfortable reading, and a large window with a cozy armchair. "How many books are there here?" asked Maisie, amazed. "Hundreds," said Marcus. "And now that you're here, we can read together whenever you want." "Do you read to children?" asked Tessa. "We love reading, and using funny voices for the characters," said Nina, appearing at the door. After the library, Marcus showed them the garden. There was a vegetable patch with greens and herbs, flower beds with bright blooms, and a huge tree with a swing hanging from it. "I made that swing myself," said Marcus proudly. "Want to try it?" The girls played in the garden for an hour while Billy, Nina, and Marcus chatted on the porch. "They're exactly as Nina described," Marcus said to Billy, "unique in their own special way." "They are," agreed Billy. "Thank you for taking care of them so well, for giving them the stability and love they needed." Billy nodded, watching the girls laugh on the swing. "They'll need time to adapt to all of this." "Take all the time you need," said Marcus instantly. "We're in no rush for anything." That night, at bedtime, the girls were visibly nervous. "Where will we sleep?" asked Tessa. "We have a room prepared especially for you," said Nina. "But if you prefer, you can sleep in the living room with us or wherever you feel most comfortable." "Can we see the room?" It was a beautiful room, with 2 beds covered in colorful quilts, a large desk by the window, empty bookshelves waiting for books and toys, and a window overlooking the garden. "Are the beds comfortable?" asked Maisie, always practical. "Try them," suggested Marcus. They flopped onto the beds and laughed, testing the softness. "They're very soft," approved Tessa. "And can we use the desk to draw?" "You can do whatever you want in your room," said Nina. "If you decide you want to stay, this will be entirely your space." That night, Billy slept in the guest room. Several times he heard whispers from the room next door. They were clearly processing everything. On Sunday morning, he found the 3 of them in the kitchen making pancakes. Marcus was teaching the girls how to flip pancakes without breaking them, and there was laughter and flour everywhere. "Uncle Billy," Tessa exclaimed when she saw him. "Look, I managed to make a nearly round pancake." "Well done," said Billy, genuinely impressed. "Marcus is almost as bad as you were at first," said Maisie, laughing. But he learned quickly. Billy stayed until after Sunday lunch. He saw the girls completely relax with Marcus and Nina. They played in the garden, read books together in the library, helped water the plants. "Can we stay until tomorrow?" asked Maisie to Nina. "Of course," said Nina, trying to control her emotion. "You can stay as long as you want. And Uncle Billy?" "Uncle Billy can stay too if he wants," said Marcus. "I need to go home today," said Billy, "but I can pick you up tomorrow." "We want to stay a bit longer," said Tessa. On Monday afternoon, Billy went to get them. He found two completely transformed girls. "Uncle Billy!" they shouted upon seeing him. "We planted seeds in the garden, and Marcus taught us chess, and Nina made chocolate cookies." On the way home, they recounted every detail. "He's really nice," said Maisie. "He listens when we talk and asks interesting questions. And he knows how to use funny voices when he reads stories," added Tessa. "And they have an orange cat named Benson. Did you like the house?" "Very much. It's big but cozy. And it smells good." "Smells of what?" "Smells like a real family," said Tessa with conviction. In the following weeks, the visits became more frequent and longer. The girls began spending entire weekends there, then started spending some weekdays as well. Billy saw how well they were adapting. They constantly spoke about Marcus, about the activities they did together, about the cat Benson. It was on a Thursday that they asked the question Billy had been waiting for. "Uncle Billy," said Maisie, seriously, "we think we want to live with them." "Are you absolutely sure?" "We are," said Tessa. "But only if you promise again that you won't disappear from our lives." "I already promised, and I promise again, and I'll promise as many times as you need to hear." "And can we come here whenever we want?" "This will always be your home too." "And can you come over for dinner with us?" "Whenever you want." They began to pack slowly, without hurry. Billy helped them decide what to take and what to leave. He put all their drawings in a special wooden box, organizing them chronologically and labeling it fondly, "Precious Memories of Maisie and Tessa, 2023. The girls packed their clothes, their books, their special toys, but they left some strategic items behind. "Luna stays here," said Tessa, "to watch the house when we're not here. And some colored pencils," added Maisie, "for when we come draw here." Billy, touched by these gestures, deliberately left their favorite toys on the living room sofa, the doll Luna sitting next to some colored pencils scattered about, as if they had only gone out to play in the garden. On moving days, Marcus came to pick up the girls in a large car big enough to hold all their things. Nina came along, radiant but trying to stay composed. The girls hugged Billy for long minutes on the doorstep, tight hugs full of love and gratitude. "Thank you for everything, Uncle Billy," said Maisie, her voice choked. "Thank you for not leaving us in that box that night," said Tessa, pressing herself against him. Billy had to take a deep breath to speak. "Thank you for having changed my life completely," he said. "Will you keep coming to see us?" asked Tessa, looking into his eyes. "Forever," Billy replied, firm and certain. "Forever and ever." He stood on the porch, waving until the car disappeared completely around the corner. Then he entered the now silent house and sat on the sofa beside Luna, the doll. The house was quiet again, but it wasn't the same empty silence as before. It was a silence filled with precious memories, filled with love, filled with promises of more encounters. Billy smiled, looking at the box of drawings on the coffee table. Some stories don't end, they just expand, gaining new chapters, new characters, new possibilities of love. The house was quieter. It wasn't the empty silence of before. It was a silence full of echoes of laughter, of memories clinging to the walls, of love that continued happening elsewhere. Billy slowly tidied the kitchen. He put away the 2 plates he had used for breakfast, a habit he still hadn't broken. He walked through the house, as he had every morning since the girls moved out a week ago. He passed through the living room, where Luna the doll still sat on the sofa next to the scattered colored pencils. He smiled. He hadn't touched a thing. He went upstairs. He passed by the room where they slept, The door was open. The beds were still unmade exactly as they had left them. Crumpled pillows, blankets tossed about carelessly. Billy paused at the doorway. He didn't go in. He just watched. He didn't cry. He just watched the room where two frightened girls had learned to trust again. The walls still held drawings taped up, stick figures smiling, huge suns taking up half the page. He went down to the kitchen. He opened the fridge and saw the drawing of the three holding hands. It was stuck to the door with a butterfly-shaped magnet. Three hands drawn in colored pencil. One large one in the middle, two small ones on the sides. Below, "Our family." Billy stared at it for a few seconds. He made coffee. He sat in the chair by the kitchen window, the same one he always used, the one that faced the garden where the girls used to play. The garden was quiet. The flowers swayed in the breeze. Everything was the same, yet different, because there weren't two little girls running barefoot across the yard. Billy sipped his coffee slowly and felt nostalgia. Nostalgia for loud laughter. Nostalgia for small feet running through the house. Nostalgia for the endless questions. But along with the nostalgia came certainty. Certainty that he had done the right thing. Certainty that they were where they were meant to be. It was the right choice, he said to the empty house. Everything was right, and it was true. The girls were with Nina and Marcus in a big house with a garden and a library, with a mother who loved them and a stepfather who already treated them as heart-born daughters. They were safe. They were loved. They were whole. The nostalgia continued, but it wasn't a painful nostalgia. It was a nostalgia that warmed. Billy's days settled into a new routine. He tidied the house, read books, answered calls from the girls, who phoned every day to talk about their new school. The nostalgia remained, but always accompanied by certainty. It was on a Thursday, 8 days after the move, that the doorbell rang. Billy was reading when he heard it, 3:30 in the afternoon. He wasn't expecting anyone. He opened the door. It was them. Maisie and Tessa standing on the porch, huge smiles on their faces, Nina behind them. "Uncle Billy," they shouted. "We missed you so much," said Maisie, throwing herself into his arms. "We came to see you," said Tessa. Billy hugged the girls tightly, feeling his heart explode with joy. "I missed you too." "We brought new drawings," said Tessa. "And cookies we made," said Maisie. Nina smiled. "They've been asking if they can come see you every day since Monday." "You can come whenever you want," said Billy. They came inside. The girls ran to hug Luna the doll. They spread new drawings on the table. They talked about school, about Benson the cat. And Billy realized the silence in the house was gone, not forever because they would go away again, but for that moment. And there would be other moments, many more. Their family had grown. It hadn't broken. It had expanded. And the silence, when it returned, would never again be a silence that hurt. It would always be the silence that waits. The silence that knows love always comes back. Always comes back. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.